Did you know that there is a crucial figure in the history of the Christian faith, who, however, remains almost unknown to many? Anna, the grandmother of Jesus, is not mentioned in the Bible texts we usually read, but her story is preserved in other ancient writings. Her life, full of challenges and trials, marked a fundamental starting point for the coming of the Messiah. However, his name was left out of the official Gospels and relegated to the Apocryphal texts. This begs the question, why was her story, so impactful and full of meaning, left out? What made church leaders decide to omit a woman of such relevance in the divine plan? The answer to these questions lies in the first centuries of Christianity, a period in which the emerging church carefully selected the texts that would make up the New Testament. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. Those writings that did not align with the theological vision they wished to convey were excluded, and so it was that Anna's story was pushed to the background, hidden but preserved in certain circles of believers. Her story is not only a story of faith, but also of resistance and hope in the face of rejection. During her lifetime, she faced the stigma of barrenness, a condition that, in her time, meant more than just a health problem. It implied a mark of public disgrace and apparent divine rejection. She came from the line of David, from which, according to the prophecies, the Saviour was to be born. Yet her inability to conceive made her the object of whispers and looks of contempt in her community. However, while the world scorned her, God had very different plans. He chose Anna precisely because of her unshakable faith, a strength that, despite her pain, never crumbled. Against all human expectations, it was she who brought Mary, the future mother of Jesus, into the world, thus fulfilling a divine mission that the world did not expect of a woman in her situation. Anna's life shows us that God can work through those whom society considers insignificant. In her apparent weakness, Anna was prepared for a monumental purpose, demonstrating that, even in adversity, there is a greater plan in which every step counts, even if it goes unnoticed by the human eye. The marriage of Anna and Joachim was seen as a predestined bond, a union that could bring about the fulfillment of the ancient promises about the Messiah. To their community, it was not just a couple, but the living hope that, at some point, from their offspring, the Saviour would be born. Social and spiritual pressure fell heavily on both of them, especially as the years began to pass with no sign of an heir. As time passed, the initial enthusiasm of the community turned to murmurs of disapproval. Anna's prayers, once filled with expectation, began to be tinged with disconsolation. Her struggle was constant, for in that society, fertility was considered a divine blessing, while infertility was seen almost as a punishment. Childlessness was not only a personal pain for Anna and Joachim, but also a stigma that isolated them from their surroundings. If you have ever felt alone or misunderstood, you can find strength in knowing the power of faith that transformed Anna's life. Discover how divine promises can bring light in the darkest of times and give new meaning to your life with our spiritual guidance. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This ebook delves into his prophecies and offers a glimpse of what lies ahead. It is available for free in the anchored commentary. Grab it now before editions run out. Over the years, looks that once reflected respect turned to silent judgments. At every festival, every meeting at the temple, they felt the intensity of those looks that seemed to accuse them of a hidden fault or an unconfessed sin. Silently, they both bore this burden, though the wait was especially difficult for Anna, who dealt with the harsh criticism and doubts of those around her. One day, overwhelmed by pain and pressure, Joachim decided to withdraw into the desert, seeking in solitude the voice of God, as the patriarchs had done in the past. In that inhospitable desert, he prayed for an answer, some consolation that would ease the burden of infertility. He felt he needed that direct communion with God to understand the reason for so much suffering. Every step he took in the desert was filled with prayers and supplications, and every moment of silence seemed to lengthen his agony. Meanwhile, Anna remained at home, wrapped in deep and intense prayer. Isolated in her own suffering, she was at a spiritual crossroads between the desire to abandon all hope and the unshakable faith that God had a purpose for her life. Her spirit, though battered, was still standing. She felt she must resist, as if a small voice inside her assured her that God's silence was not abandonment, but part of a plan she did not yet fully understand. Both of them, separated in body but united in spirit, continued to cling to a faith that kept them standing, though they could barely glimpse an answer. In the darkest and most desperate moment, Anna found the light of a heavenly promise that would change her life forever. As she stood in prayer under the shade of a tree, a supernatural presence enveloped her. Before her, an angel descended, radiating a peace and clarity that Anna had never felt before. The messenger's first words were warm and firm. "God has heard your prayers. You will conceive and bear a daughter whose name will be remembered for generations." The news was so unexpected that the accumulated pain of years seemed to melt away. Not only was she promised a son, but this child would have a transcendental mission, a purpose that went beyond the mere hope of motherhood. Anna, who had felt the weight of disapproval and sadness, now became the linchpin of a divine plan. At the same time, her husband Joachim, who was withdrawn in prayer in the wilderness, received a similar message. His family would be blessed in an unimaginable way, and his daughter would be recognized as a symbol of redemption. When Joachim returned, he found Anna transformed, enveloped in serene peace and unusual joy. Both understood without words that they had experienced the same revelation. Have you ever wondered how to find comfort in times of trial? Our ebook may be the answer you need. Download it in the first comment before we run out of copies. The long years of unhappiness, the reproachful looks of his community, and the silence of God were behind him, replaced by a divine promise that surpassed all human understanding. Regardless of the judgments of others, Anna and Joachim now shared a sacred secret, a mission God had entrusted to them. As the months passed, Anna began to feel life growing in her womb. Each day, her heart overflowed with gratitude, for the child inside her was the answer to her prayers. This daughter would not be a mere offspring, but the mother of the promised Savior. In the midst of her community, Anna walked with renewed dignity. She no longer feared whispers or stares, for within her she harbored a miracle that would change the course of history. Finally, the long-awaited day arrived. Against all expectations and in defiance of the laws of nature, Anna, in her old age, gave birth to a baby girl. She named her Mary, a name that would echo down the centuries as the symbol of hope and redemption. As Mary grew older, Anna sensed the importance of the mission that lay ahead for her daughter. In the silence of her home, she passed on to Mary the teachings that had become pillars of her faith, rooted in the ancient promises of Israel. She told her about God's covenant with Abraham Deborah's courage, and Isaiah's hope in the coming Messiah. Anna believed that, to understand God's purpose, Mary had to know her history and the promises that preceded it, not just as knowledge, but as something alive in her own heart. Each day, Anna observed in Mary an inclination toward the divine that went beyond ordinary devotion. In the hours of shared prayer, Anna saw how God's presence seemed to envelop her daughter in a serene and natural way, a peace that could not be explained in words. There was in Mary a predisposition to love and compassion that left Anna in no doubt. God had prepared her for something great. Even when household chores were simple, Mary performed them with a serenity and dedication that, in Anna's eyes, revealed her heart of service. The years passed, and though Anna felt the wear and tear of age, she spared no effort in Mary's spiritual formation. Even when fatigue overcame her, her dedication to the mission God had entrusted to her remained intact. Anna was clear that her time with Mary would not last forever. Therefore, at every opportunity, she conveyed to her the importance of trusting in the Lord, of keeping firm faith, even when God's ways seemed incomprehensible. Anna also shared with Mary her experience of years of waiting and pain before conceiving her, recounting the depth of her prayer and God's silence during that period of uncertainty. These stories were not simply memories, but life lessons, and Mary listened to every word with the attention of one who knows she is receiving a priceless spiritual inheritance. Anna firmly believed that by understanding the nature of her own miraculous arrival in the world, Mary would be able to grasp the greatness of the role she was destined to fulfill. Just as Anna found in faith a guide to move forward, you too can find clarity and strength in this resource we share today. Remember, there are only a few copies of the free e-book left. It is available in the first commentary posted. The days were filled with moments of intense bonding, shared silences, and heartfelt prayers. For Mary, Anna's stories became a treasure, a reminder of God's faithfulness through the generations. In her mother's eyes, Mary could see the strength of a woman who, despite years of pain, never lost hope and trust in the Lord. Through Anna's words, Mary learned that her life was not hers alone, but part of a much larger plan that transcended everything she could imagine. When Mary was brought to the temple, Anna and Joachim's lives experienced a profound change. They had fulfilled their promise to God, a promise born of a desperate, faith-filled heart. Anna, although filled with pride at seeing her daughter prepared to serve God, also felt an inevitable sadness. She accepted this sacrifice as further proof of trust in God's plans, knowing that her daughter was now under God's protection. With each visit to the temple, Anna watched Mary grow in wisdom and grace with a devotion that made her stand out among the other consecrated young women. Her daughter's purity and sincere willingness to serve God were a source of comfort to Anna, who saw in these gestures an extension of her own faith, a faith that had guided her life through trials and challenges. While Mary was being trained in the temple, Anna continued her life in Nazareth, carrying her daughter in her daily thoughts and prayers. Anna's age was advancing, and her strength was beginning to wane, but her spirit remained steadfast. The teachings she had instilled in Mary were like seeds that, as they germinated, carried with them the essence of her values, her love for God, and her perseverance. In those years of distance, Anna leaned on the hope that her daughter, wherever she was fulfilling a special purpose that had been outlined by God from the beginning. The day came when Anna knew she would never see Mary again. Although their meetings had become less frequent over time, the bond between mother and daughter remained unbreakable. Anna looked back on the past, remembering every moment, every shared prayer, and every promise made in silence. She understood that her time on earth was running out, but also that she had fulfilled her mission. She had prepared Mary for a task that transcended any human dream or longing. In her final days, as she surrounded herself with family and friends, Anna passed on words of encouragement and faith, always remembering that God's will is a mystery that reveals itself step by step. With her final prayers, she gave her daughter and all that she loved to God, trusting that her legacy of love and devotion would live on in Mary and in generations to come. During her early years in the temple, Mary was exposed to a rigorous formation that went far beyond simple religious instruction. Consecrated young women like her lived under strict discipline, with set times for prayer, meditation, and learning the scriptures. In the pain and waiting, Anna found purpose and peace. If you are looking for that same strength in your journey, this e-book may be the support you need. The last copies are running out. This education was intended not only to instill knowledge, but also to cultivate a powerful spiritual connection, a constant communion with God that would guide every decision in their lives. Each morning, Mary would rise before dawn, joining the others in silent prayer that rose in the stillness of the temple. This morning ritual was considered a sacred moment, an opportunity for each consecrated young woman to offer her day to divine service. Through these moments, Mary began to understand the importance of silence and humility, qualities she had seen in her mother and which were now becoming part of her own life. The temple was also a place of apprenticeship in the arts of hospitality and service, essential values in Jewish culture. Mary, along with other young women, took on daily tasks such as cleaning the sacred spaces and preparing food for the priests and visitors. These practical tasks strengthened her sense of responsibility, taught her to serve with humility and joy, to see every small act as a form of worship. As she grew older, the priests recognized in Mary an uncommon purity of spirit and maturity. They entrusted her with reading and memorizing passages from the Torah and other sacred texts, encouraging her to reflect on their meaning. If this message makes you reflect and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us continue to create valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss any news. The young Mary absorbed each teaching with a devotion that impressed everyone, showing an intuitive understanding of the divine mysteries that inspired those around her. This time in the temple, though far from her home and her mother, allowed the principles instilled by Anna to take further hold in Mary's heart. In every prayer, in every act of service, she relived the words of her mother, who always taught her to see the hand of God in every detail of life.